Let's work on the login next. And of course, also feel free to pause the video at this point and try it on your own first, because the general flow is pretty similar to signing users up. So here's your chance to pause the video, and thereafter we'll do it together. Were you successful? Let's add login together. For that, first step is to have a look at the official docs and there at sign in with email and password to find out what the right URL is. It's this URL, which is pretty similar to the last one, but this segment here actually differs. If you directly compare it, then here we're sending a request to sign up new user in the end, and down there we're sending a request to verify password. So let's copy that URL. The data you attach as a body is the exact same. It also should be a post request with JSON data, and the data you get back is also almost exactly the same. There's just one extra field, which won't be important for us though. So now we can go again to the auth Dart file and in there add another method, which of course will also yield a future, which then eventually will yield nothing, and that's the login method. Now, since you need to send the same data, it makes sense to also accept password and email here as inputs and add the async keyword to use async await. And then here, you can basically copy the code from up there. The only difference is the URL, and there, as I mentioned, this one segment here, verify password instead of sign up new user. So let me add that there. The rest is the same. Your key here obviously is the same. And therefore, this should work. This is all because we're attaching the same data. Now hence, and that's of course optional, if you didn't do that, that's okay. Since we have pretty much the same code, we can of course add a new method above or below that one, doesn't matter, ordering doesn't matter here, which actually returns a future, which we could name authenticate_authenticate because it should only be called from inside that file. Have the async keyword there as well, and what I expect here is my email and my password, and then also my, let's say, URL segment, so that one thing that actually changes. And then in this method here, we could have our logic here. Let's copy that into there. And we replace that one segment with string interpolation and use URL segment, which is this dynamically passed in value here, to send the request to the right URL. And other than that, this should just work. And of course, here I can also print JSON decode response body to see whether it really works. So now we can use _authenticate and call that from inside sign up and login. So here I can now just call authenticate and forward the email and the password and set up that special segment here at the end, which for signing up, of course, is sign up new user. So I would pass this as a third argument here, sign up new user, that's the segment. And for login, we do the same, but our segment now is verify password, so we pass this, and now we can also delete all that code here. Hence, we have linear sign up and login functions. They do the same, only the path to which this gets sent differs. So with that, we're almost there. One thing I want to do though, I want to return the calls to authenticate, because authenticate will return a future, which yields nothing because we await in there and we are using async await, so this returns a future. And I want to return this future because this is the future which actually wraps our HTTP request and waits for it to complete. So in order to have our loading spinner work correctly, we want to return the future which actually does the work. Without return, we would also return a future, but this wouldn't wait for the future of authenticate to do its job. This only happens if we return this future instead of the auto-generated one, which we would get in this method, because the future returned by authenticate is the future that waits and that takes a bit longer. So let's make sure we return authenticate in both sign up and login. And with that, we should be good to go and use that. Now, I just got an error up there because of course here I'm using const, but this is no longer const. We have the dynamic URL segment in there. So it's a runtime constant, not a compilation time constant. Hence we should use final instead of const here. And with that, this all works. And now we can start using our newly added login method. For that, let's go back to the auth screen. And there in the login branch of this if statement, we can await provider auth and connect that to the nearest auth object, context with listen set to false, of course, and here I'll call login and forward the exact same data I have in there, auth data email and auth data password. So it's pretty similar, but it sends the login request. And we can also see whether that works. If we go back and we go to login instead, still have my credentials entered here, so let me press login with this. Let's see, looks pretty good. Got back a response, and this indicates that this indeed worked and we did login. So we're able to log in. Before we now continue and change the screen we're showing, let's make sure we handle errors. Because right now, for example, if I would try to sign up again with the same email address, you see, I actually get an error here, but it would be nice to not just print it here, but to actually show that on the screen to the user, give the user an idea that something went wrong. So error handling is the next thing we'll do.